I definitely, it's so difficult to disassemble what you've put together. And I think it's truly remarkable to come out on the other side and hear what you've just said. But you're not alone when it comes to what you did, right? Putting stock or putting all those values into those things that people, maybe society at large over time told us to do. And I see that trend here, and I'm sure you see that trend in America as well. It's called the American dream. It's called just the capitalistic dream, right? Of checking all those boxes, and doing those various things. I mean, of course, there is a lot of benefit from getting an education, a lot of benefit from having a job, no doubt about it. But once you go beyond that, then it becomes a role that you get attached to, and that attachment as a result gives you worth in people's eyes. And in many cases, I feel that worth is something which is so sort of integral to your being, that when that role goes away, when you get fired or when you get divorced or when
Right.
whatever it may be, when, and also say as a parent, right, your children's performance or how they turn out to be as young adults is that role and the outcome of that role. So you kind of, I'm not saying you, but generally parents also want that their kids to succeed because it reflects on them. And when the kids do something different, it seems like they have failed as parents, which is absolute rubbish, right? Because the bond you have as a parent and a child is irrespective of what that child turns out to be. I know it's easier said than done, but I feel that that's why it's so nice to hear what you put yourself. I mean, it was the cards you were dealt, but the decision you took to kind of go through that process of disassembling and kind of breaking it down, saying this is what I don't want, this is what I want to reintroduce, this is what I want to do with my life. It's, in hindsight, yeah, of course, it's nice to talk about, but the process of doing it is really, really hard. So a lot of people aren't able to do it because they are just chasing that dream, the bigger house, the better job, the partner, or whatever it may be, right? I don't know how those things pan out, but none of this has, especially in today's day and age. I mean, I don't have a question here, but I'm just making an observation. It seems more and more that this dream isn't what it's made out to be, and the at the end of the road, a lot of people are finding themselves disappointed, like going, I did everything I was told to. I kind of have gone down the path that I was promised will give me fulfillment, success, purpose, happiness, or whatever the things I want, but it clearly seems more and more lacking, right?
Well, yeah, and I just wrote down two words because there's so much there, to so much great stuff to talk about. So a couple of points. I think that the concept of the American dream has changed. And so I don't think it's a bad thing and a negative thing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like you just said, education and but it's almost like at least in my view, that we've put more focus on the acquisitive nature of it. So that, that keeping up with the Joneses and look how good, I've got it, the bigger house and the bigger car and whatever, rather than the things that make it up. And I look at my parents, and I hear in this country so much, wow, you just want to go back to the 1950s and whatever. Well, no, but that doesn't mean that there weren't great things, because I'm the product of my parents who brought me up in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
So, and for them, the American dream was about, like my father, he only had like a year of college. My mom never had any college, but they were wonderful people. And so their American dream was their children, the value of the home. We don't, I mean, you just think about all these articles about, the family dinners have gone by the wayside.
Yeah.
So part of that American dream is spending time with the family, making the family and the home the center of your life, not just acquiring the house, acquiring the stuff, having the two kids so you look great because you've got the two kids or the three kids or whatever it is.
Mm.
It's the value of what those things mean and
Yeah.
what the home means and the bonds that those are forged. And then the career becomes partly about hard work. It becomes about providing and feeling that pride and providing for your family. and
Mm.
and my family that that didn't do things, they didn't go on the vacations they could have to put me through college. So I think that it's not a bad thing. I think we've just started to um not realize what that really means.
Yeah.
What is the American dream? What does it really mean? And we want things without enough hard work. We don't believe in I don't think we believe in hard work as much as we used to. We don't believe in responsibility. So I think we've had a shift because we just put more value in things and the way we look. And the other thing, related to what you were saying, is that we also, part of the problem too, when you said, these things happen, we lose, is that we're not taught.
Mhm.
um, One of the basic things about life, and that life is change.
Yeah.
We're just not taught that. I mean, we know it. I mean, we can't go through a moment. I woke up and I'm like, what's going on? The heat's not off. I've got a great AC system. I
Yeah.
mean, the AC is off. Um, it's like moment by moment. We expect we're going to wake up and, it's going to be cool and we're not going to have to deal with the AC on July 4th and getting a repairman here. But that is actually more common. The change and the hardships and the things that just keep peppering us, that's the rule of life. We think that that's the exception. Um, and so we fight against that all the time,
Yeah.
so that there's change and we resist the change. That causes stress because we resist the change. We think, oh, I've got to fix this. So we just become, and I know that this is true of myself. I felt like I was just a fixer. All I was doing was just fixing things and fixing things. I still had to do them, okay? But it was the resistance that I had and the feeling of, why is this happening again? Well, why? Because it's the nature of life, and this is what happens. And so when I let go, and still, it can be a hassle, but when I let go of being so attached to things staying the same and staying as if, I've constructed them. It allows you a more freedom, more ability to cope. I think it brings joy back into your life. You're not so feeling like you're just riding against the tide all the time. So I think that's another thing that's happened in our society. We just have this idea that we can just fix everything with money or whatever it is. And we don't accept it. We don't accept change. And that doesn't mean like I tried to save my marriage. Yes, I wanted to save my marriage. I still loved my ex. I think that our family suffered because of this divorce. So it doesn't mean that you don't try and fix the things that can be fixed and try and repair things. Not at all. But eventually, I think you have to accept things, and we don't have that. We don't have that mindset a lot in our country of acceptance.
Yeah. No, I think you might be speaking specifically about the society in America, but there are sort of ripples of that being felt across the world because everyone, till recently, maybe even till presently, looked to America for trends, right? And
Right.
of course, there are so many values, as you mentioned. And oh, before I forget, I forgot to wish you Happy Independence Day. I was,
Oh, thank you.
yeah. No, I was just thinking because when growing up, right, it was the pop culture that came east from the US, right? Whether it was shows like Friends or Frasier or MASH and all these things, which were great entertainment. But even other things which were go abroad to get an education. Once you go to America, you can do whatever it takes to be whoever you want to be. And I see a lot of people living that dream, right? But as you said, there's nothing wrong with those things, nothing wrong having a good job. There's nothing wrong spending the money the way you want it to. But I feel what you get out of it, the emotional fulfillment, right? Enjoying what you own, enjoying that home for what it is, which is a place for families to be together, to eat together, to talk. None of I think those things are slowly not there because sometimes there are children now, young adults who are at home feeling so alone because they can't communicate with their parents, or there are parents who can't communicate with each other because of whatever reason, right? Maybe the internet, maybe social media. People feel more connected to someone online than someone in the sofa next to them. So there's nothing wrong with having a lovely home. There's nothing wrong with having
Exactly.
material things to enjoy. But I feel in a context which is very different yet similar in some ways, is India doesn't have as much wealth for everyone, and of course there are disparities in America as well. But I see this in the middle and upper middle class, and even in the people who have money, is that the the ability to enjoy it, enjoy the money you have, enjoy the job you have, enjoy the home you've made with yourself. And once that goes, and it just becomes the label, right? The labels that you can show off to whoever chooses to look. And then when that becomes the case, no one's going to be happy for you, and you're always going to feel threatened and insecure, because you're like, wait a second, I expected that person to go, wow, you amazing job, you're pulling in so much money. But when you don't get that, you're like, oh, maybe there's someone who has more than me, there's someone who has a bigger house, someone who has a happier marriage. And then the conversation gets absolutely lost, because then you're not living your life for yourself or for your family or to enjoy and treasure those moments, but it becomes more of a, hey, you know what, only if I get that next promotion, or I get that bigger job, I get that huge package, will I then be recognized and validated by someone else, who that person has his own or her own journey going on, And
Right.
that's the thing which we're seeing now. I mean, we're seeing more divorce rates in India. We're seeing more dysfunctional families. We're seeing children feeling isolated from their parents. We're seeing kids on a higher suicide rate. We're seeing kids with more anxiety, depression. And um, I'm saying, even though India is so different, and in many ways we have a huge population that struggles with making ends meet on a daily basis, the population that does have the money is seeing the same symptoms of the problems that are happening in the US. So clearly it's not the American dream or what that represents, but it is the lack of meaning for those dreams, right? It's just becoming um, boxes to tick without appreciating what those boxes can actually do for you, which is enjoying the work, hard work, appreciation of what you can do for yourself. And that's sad, and I think that's a little disconcerting going forward, because it's happening in one country, and it's going to happen on a larger scale in the country I live in. And more people are like, we need more investment, India needs to grow rapidly, we need to become a superpower. But without appreciating those emotions, those values, and if this is the only message being driven, then we're heading for a crisis of a huge number of people who are going to be absolutely dissatisfied with what they have, because they're not doing it because they want to, but they're doing it to impress someone who doesn't really care.
Well, yeah, I mean, and you said a lot there, and I think I think you're right about, we can talk about globalization and exporting of all American stuff. And I mean, I just came back from Poland, and it was just wonderful. And then I, came back to the first American airport, and it was just like all McDonald's and, all these. It was just like, oh, I don't want to see all these things that everybody thinks are great,
Yeah.
because I just had wonderful food, and now I'm back to, like, I'm sorry, the garbage.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I think that, so I mean, we can really get into philosophical stuff here, and about that we've lost this. So, again, we can put this label of happiness. It's this constant journey after happiness and finding happiness, because that's really what it is. Because I believe that we are all the same inside, and we all want to be happy. I mean, I think I think that can make that universal statement. We
Yeah.
all want to be happy. And so all of these things that you're talking about are a means of trying to be happy, because that's
Mm.
what we all want. We all want fulfillment. We all want to be happy. So we've missed our way in terms of what that happiness is. And I'm Catholic. I could get into talking about religion, because I have my personal view of happiness in terms of my faith. But I think bottom line, it comes to, if there's a universal thread to that's beyond religion, it's inner peace. It's finding that inner peace. And so finding, going to this trap and that trap and whatever, and we keep recycling, basically, through the same kind of things that we do, the acquisitiveness or whatever. We try this, we're not happy with that partner. Well, it's got to be that partner. It can't be something I'm doing or the way that I'm going about it, because it can't be me. So we look for things outside
Yeah.
what's inside us.
Yeah.
And that's really what the problem is that we're looking outside ourselves for things to solve our own discontent and unhappiness inside. And that's really, I believe, what's happening.